for those of you that have just logged on, we have had Jenny, Maria, Beck, Fran, Bri, Nikki and Vanessa all join us, and Joe. So if any of you guys have questions, just let me know and I will answer them as we go. All right, so constipation. It is an absolute pain in the bum, pardon the pun, but it is something that can be really common after surgery. Maybe hit like if you have struggled with constipation since your surgery. Some people struggle with constipation, other people struggle with diarrhea, and it is absolutely impossible to tell which way you might go. All right. Some people have always struggled with constipation, and then after the surgery, it's just a bit worse. Or some people, it doesn't really change their bowel habits, but they always struggle with constipation beforehand. So there are a few things that we need to try to do. Catherine, remind me where you're at after your surgery. How long has it been now? Let me know. The key to constipation are three things: fluid, fiber, and movement. Okay, so fluid, you need to make sure you're drinking enough. If you're not drinking enough, there's not going to be enough water that is sort of released in your bowel, okay? And that means that your stools will be harder and constipation will be worse, because your body is reabsorbing all of that fluid out of your intestines to try to keep you hydrated. All right, so ideally we want to aim for about 1.5 liters of fluid a day. And I've written about hydration lots of times before. We speak about it all the time because it is something that people really, really struggle with after surgery. So tips for staying hydrated is to flavor the water, make it really cold or drink it hot. So rather than just a room temperature, you might like to try something like light bubbles, like lightly sparkling mineral water. I know you can buy Mount Franklin, they have a lightly sparkling water, but you might also, if you've got a soda stream at home, you can just do it like not too bubbly. Put a little bit of carbonation into it, and all of those things will help you to drink that fluid. And Catherine, I've just seen you are 3 weeks tomorrow, and look, it's totally common at that stage to have constipation or diarrhea, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Also, maybe before we go into fibre and movement, it's important to realize that sometimes after surgery you may not go as regularly as you did before because you just aren't actually eating as much as you were before. So sometimes if you went every day like clockwork before surgery, your new normal after surgery might be every 2 to 3 days, and that's absolutely fine as long as you don't feel constipated. So feeling constipated involves maybe feeling bloated, feeling really full, struggling when you do go to the loo, like you're having to strain to go to the loo, or not being able to go even though you want to. So if you're just not going regularly but you're not feeling constipated, then I don't worry about it too much. All right, we just check those three things: fluid, fiber, and movement. But if you are really struggling with constipation, like it's painful, you're bloating, you're straining to go to the loo, then that's when we want to try and do something about it. So fluid, we've spoken about fluid. Fiber, at 3 weeks in, the thing that we don't want to do is add in too much fiber if you are not drinking enough fluid. So lots of people will go, okay, well, I'll just take more and more and more Benny fiber, all right, and that'll make it go down, and that'll make me go to the loo. But the problem is that the more fiber you take, the more fluid you need to drink. Otherwise, you're just going to back yourself up even more. So if you're really struggling to go to the loo and you're not able to drink that much because it's still early after your surgery, I often tell people just to stop taking the fiber. Maybe for a week or two until they're going more regularly, and then build up that fiber dose slowly over the next couple of weeks or month or so after that. So if you have never taken fiber before and you start taking 1 or 2 or 3 teaspoons a day, your gut sometimes just isn't used to it, and it can actually make you more constipated. So fluid, fiber, and movement. If you are not taking any fiber, and especially if you're sort of up I don't know, 8 weeks or so after the surgery, then you should be adding that in every day. And the reason for that is that it is just too difficult to get your 25 or 30 grams of fibre a day after surgery because of the volume of food that you can eat. Okay, so it is important to add your fibre supplement in. I like Benny Fibre because it doesn't go gluggy like Metamucil does, so it's a bit easier to take, and you can stir it through foods like if you're, say, making, I don't know, your Weet-Bix in the morning, soggy with milk for you, Jenny, then you can add in your teaspoon of Benny Fibre and maybe stir that around in there. Okay, so fluid and fibre. Right, and then the last one is movement. So getting out and reaching that step goal every day and getting moving will actually help to move your gut as well. So if you move, your gut will move too. So that's really the third key to constipation. If you are still struggling with constipation and you're doing all those things and maybe it's been 4 or 5 days, then I would go in and see the pharmacist about a laxative to take, just to help. So something like Movicol is something really common, but someone might take something like a Dulcolax just to start with. But if it is really painful or you're really struggling with it, then please go in and see your GP and ask them for help, and see your surgeon, ask your surgeon about it next time that you have your appointment with them. So I know there are lots of comments. I'm just going to read back through for 1 second. Sarah said the first month was awful with her constipation as well. Jenny said drink lots of water, eat prunes, add Benny Fibre to your water and walk. Absolutely, Jenny. And that's a good point, actually. The fibre isn't just from your supplement. It's making sure that you are still eating your veggies and you're not focusing too much on protein as well. So you're aiming for having some sort of vegetable or fruit throughout the day as well. So ideally we want fruit once a day, veggies twice a day, and protein 3 times a day. And if you're having something like breakfast and you're not having veggies or fruit and you want to add in some grains, then go for something like a rolled oats. Just make sure that, or Weet-Bix, for example, especially on the puree phase, or the soft food phase, Weet-Bix is a great one. You just have to make it soggy. Okay, and then you're getting in some fibre from your food. Jenny also said overripe bananas, underripe bananas harden up, overripe bananas make it looser. I also used to have someone, I worked at a dried fruit and nut and flour and grains market stall all the way through uni, and we used to have these Turkish apricots, and people would come in specifically for Turkish apricots and tell me all the time that they needed 2 of those a day and that would fix them right up. So it's worth giving it a go. Don't dose yourself up too much, but it can help. Maria is someone who's had a lifetime of no constipation due to Crohn's disease. It's been really tough, but I seem to be better these days. That's good. And that is the point as well to take note of, is that it does actually settle down over time. So whether you're suffering maybe with constipation or diarrhea, the longer you are out from surgery, the better routine you get into and the easier it will be and the more regular you will be. It just takes a little bit of trial and error to figure out what works. Jenny's also said that she's puts a water timer on her internet browser and that's helped heaps while at the office. Jenny, that's really interesting. Do you have an app that you use that you load into your browser, like if you're using Chrome, for example? Is there a specific thing that you use for that, or do you just have a recurring timer that pops up when you're in Outlook, for example, or in your emails? I would love to know if there's an app for that, because that would be really, really cool. There is an app called Waterlogger, or Waterlogged, I think it's Waterlogged, where you can log the amount of water that you drink and it will send you reminders as well. So I'm sure there's a few of those. So if anybody's seen any, let me know. Sam's here, which is awesome. Welcome, Sam. Jeanette, you said you suffered terribly with constipation as well. And Beck, you're the opposite. So your gut health actually got better post-op and it was a dramatic improvement. And that's really good too. What I often find in the clinic is that sometimes the people, if they suffer with things like allergies or intolerances, mainly intolerances to foods, that after the surgery sometimes their gut settles down because they are actually managing to eat smaller portions, so it doesn't kind of tip them over that threshold where it will cause a gut upset, so either constipation or diarrhea. So that might have been what's happened with you too, Beck. I'm not sure. Janine says use the Baritastic, I can never say that one, app. And it has a timer for everything, so the food, meds, water, which is perfect. But Jenny has said that she doesn't have an alarm going off in the office because she can't, and she's going to find the name of the browser add-on, which is awesome because I think that's really, really good at work. I know it is hard to have the timer going off all the time. I've got a timer that I can set on my watch, and it will give me notifications, it'll give me timers, but even when it's on vibrate, it's really loud, and I know it annoys people around me, so there has to be another way. But the browser add-on might be awesome if it just pops up in front of you. That could be a really, really good thing, so I would love to know what that's called, Jenny. Thank you. All right, so while we wait for any more comments or questions, I'm just going to go back through the group as I usually do. I said at the very, very beginning, I'm dressed in my sporty clothes because I went for a walk this afternoon to try and reach my step goal today, because I knew I was coming on to talk to you. And this week's challenge, we've done it before, but I thought it was really, really important to kind of revisit it and remind everyone that it doesn't actually matter what your step goal is, as long as you're working towards that every day. And it's just about moving. So even if you can't do many steps, is there some other sort of exercise that you can do that you could try? Maybe it's getting on a stationary bike, or maybe it is going for a swim a couple of times a week, but just getting out and moving will really, really help with long-term success. So we had a really, really bad week last week. I had no consistency with my exercise, and so it definitely inspired me to get moving for this week's challenge. So you'll be pleased to know I'm at 16,000 steps for today. Also because we went back to uni today, so I was in the classroom teaching again. So that when you're on your feet for sort of 4 hours, that does definitely help.